How bad is that? How bad is that? We're going live. You wouldn't believe it. Steve and I are just chewing the fat. We're talking. And Steve looks at the time and goes, I'm meant to be live right now.
Exactly.
And sorry about that for the little delay in getting online. Welcome, one and all, whoever's with us. Let's just put a little bit of chat out there. Welcome.
I'm actually wandering the hallways of Advanta because my conference room that they promised me is still being used. But I see a table down here. I'm going to see if I can just sit at.
Okay, so Steve's live at Microsoft. There's been an event on this week, particularly around the ISV ecosystem side of things. It's a brand new event, and so he's there. Of course, we've had the release wave this week, which is just crazy. Hey, Patty, how are you? Good to have you online with us. Patty, what are you finding so far? What are the big highlights for you in this release wave? Be good for you to chuck those in the comments there and see what those are. In fact, anybody else that has, comments around this release wave, keen to get your input, output, feedback, that type of thing. Steve, are you set up yet in your conference room?
I found another spot I think will hold me over. So I'm not moving.
Gotcha. So what's happening, man? What's happening up in Redmond this week, and what's the event you're at? First of all, what is this event? Is it a new event?
This is a new event. It's an ISV technical summit. It was really targeting technical people, but I will say it's the least technical conference I've ever been at.
The least technical conference.
It's been a lot of there's a large contingent of F&O partners here.
Okay.
And it's the development team. So these folks have been living under rocks and have no idea what the Power Platform is all about, or common data service or common data model. So it's been a lot of very introductory stuff to that group. So by technical conference, I think that's who was invited, not the content.
But that's not who's turned up.
No, yeah, exactly. But it's been good. We saw some interesting things here, some stuff that we'll be seeing at Summit.
Which Summit? Are you talking about in Barcelona?
No, MVP Summit. Yeah. So some of it, a lot of it was NDA, but a few things I could talk about. One of the things I thought was hang
on a second. This event you're at right now is NDA?
It's funny because, right, NDA is an individual agreement. None of these people are under NDA.
No. But
Microsoft's getting up there with their first slide saying this is all NDA. And I'm thinking, I'm probably the only guy in the room who's actually bound by that. Everybody else could go out and tweet it, do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
But I did ask permission of a couple of presenters about a couple of things that I thought were interesting and that are actually even out there.
Yeah.
One of them, you can build a Canvas app from Maker portal, right? And you can reach out to, as a data source, you can reach out, connect to Azure SQL, for example.
Yep.
Right. So what they've introduced is this idea to be able to do it from the other way. So for Azure developer, Azure SQL developer, Azure guy, from the Azure side, looking at one of his Azure SQL databases, he has a new button which he can push, which will create a Canvas app for him.
Wow.
Fairly basic, a 3-page Canvas app, something to get started, but it's like you could create a Canvas app using Azure SQL from either side now, either the PowerApps side or the Azure side, and both kind of get you the same result. The thinking is that there's this huge, bunch of Azure developers out there that they want to get introduced to PowerApps, and this is kind of a way to do it.
Yeah.
The thing I'm not too crazy about is that I think what it does is it launches a puny little Canvas app.
Yeah.
And Azure developer is going to think, oh, there's Power Platform. I know what that's all about now. And it's just such a small little bitty piece of it.
Yeah.
But it's a motion. It's a try. I talked to them about in one of the sessions, they were showing us something, and this is for ISVs, right? And they're showing us products that are not what I'm calling ISV ready.
Okay, so when you say ISV ready, are you talking about Microsoft products? So let's say we took Power Automate, for example, that Power Automate's not ISV ready, as an example?
So it would depend on how you want to define it. When I'm thinking of ISV ready, I'm thinking this is a feature that could be packaged, deployed using package deployer through AppSource.
Right, so it's a feature that can be used on AppSource and therefore by a package deployer.
And does not require a bunch of steps to be taken post-deployment.
Yeah.
Like reauthentication or any other sort of monkeying around, because as an ISV, you can't scale that. You can't scale that everything that gets pushed out through AppSource, I've got to then log in with a customer, go through 2 or 3 steps to turn that shit on. That's not ISV ready to me. ISV ready is I can package it all up, push it out through AppSource, they install it, it just works.
Yeah.
So we're kicking around the idea of something that I was calling an ISV ready tag.
Right.
And I was also talking to them about they shouldn't decide that because, all the teams are just going to say everything's ISV ready.
Exactly. They're going to self-monitor and go, yeah, of course it is.
Exactly. And I think that, so we'll see where it goes. I think there's going to be potentially a committee, a small volunteer committee of ISVs that will be the ones that can determine whether something's ISV ready or not.
Yeah, yeah. So I've got some questions, and I've got these questions for you from the point of view. I'm putting my ISV hat on, being that now, with Sales Spark, I am knee deep in an ISV and living and breathing it every day.
Yep.
So for me, it seems to be a long time between drinks since I've heard anything about the ISV motion. Probably for at least 4 months, it's gone quiet. I'm not seeing any changes in AppSource, right? Remember, I've come into AppSource from I wasn't on that other, platform or the other deployment tool. I've come straight into it here. I did notice it had incredible speed, turnaround time, that type of thing. But, where's the hint or the whisper about a licensing module in it? Where's the hint or whisper about being able to transact on that platform? Where's the hint or whisper about the front end of AppSource having an overhaul? Don't see any of it.
There was some talk about, which annoys the shit out of me, that there's still talk about removing apps that didn't recertify. As if, why are they even still there?
Last October, why are they still there? That was October.
Exactly. And they're still there. They're giving the benefit of the doubt to people who aren't even answering fucking emails. I mean, give me a break.
We predict this would happen, right? When people get involved and they make these big calls, it's like, we're going to threaten you. And it's like when your parents threaten you and they never carry out on a threat. Guess what? People just go, yeah, of course.
Well, I think that, and we talked before the show started about the transition to unified interface coming.
Yeah.
Right. And that was originally talked about that it will be complete by October of this year.
Yeah.
But lots of folks took that to mean it won't happen until October of this year. And that's not the case. It's happening throughout the year. You got to go to that run once site or you'll get an email letting you know when your instance is scheduled to be moved over. Yeah. Well, that's gonna break a bunch more of those ISV solutions. That's why the now twice a year recertification for ISVs in line with the waves, the releases.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is what they should have been doing all along.
Yeah.
Should have been doing all along. Yeah, AppSource, I still haven't seen any improvement in the algorithm, the search algorithm to be able to surface products. I'm still sitting on, we've got products out there with, multiple 5-star reviews, certified Microsoft, preferred Microsoft tags all over these things that show up on page 3. And top of the page is some piece of garbage that has 20 horrible reviews based on number of clicks. So apparently whatever that ISV is selling, more people are looking for.
Yeah.
So that's how he's ending up at the top. They need to fix that.
Yeah. So how are you saying, if you want to rank right now as an ISV in AppSource, get on the radar, how do you do that?
Clicks.
Just clicks.
Clicks. The other filters don't even do anything. They're not even active.
Wow.
Yeah, they're not even active. It's 100% at the moment and has been since it launched. Number of click based.
That's nuts.
It is nuts. So I don't know where they're at with that. Actually, Googs had talked about getting back on with us again.
Okay.
I caught him out here and said, you probably got some stuff to catch us up on. He said, anytime. So we'll get him. I'll be seeing Charles and Muhammad again later today.
Yep.
So probably due to get another round of kind of getting all these guys back online to talk about what's going on.
Yeah, so it's interesting to say that. So Hayden Stafford gave me a list of 5 people he would like me to get on my podcast on the Power 365 show. And Muhammad was one of those people, but then also some senior people in the Dynamics part of the organization.
So Muhammad Alam, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So he runs basically all the ERP now, right? He runs F&O and Business Central's pulled under him also. So he's got pretty much the whole cloud ERP is all Muhammad. Yep.
Can you see the chat window at all here?
I can't. I'm just on a tab. I'm on a tablet here.
So a couple of things. Patty saying he likes the printing from Canvas app, that new feature.
Okay.
I wasn't even aware that was a new, as in that was or was not available. Hassan says here, also you need to remove the supplicate apps, then let the most functioning remain in the open source. It looks messy now.
Where's he talking about?
I assume AppSource in reference. Hassan, can you confirm that you're talking about AppSource? You need to remove the duplicate apps. Sorry. He's saying there's a shit ton of duplicate apps in AppSource and that needs to be tidied up.
So what he may be talking about there is multiple ISVs that have built solutions that all do the same thing, some better than others.
Okay.
But I don't know that Microsoft's going to do that. I don't know they want to get in the kingmaker position. I think that they'll let the rating system do that.
Yeah.
What they are going to focus on is that it's certified, that it will run on this version of our platform, and when we roll out the next wave of changes, you'll have to certify again to make sure it's going to continue to run, so that AppSource doesn't turn into another pile of shit like it has been. Yeah. Why it's taking them so long to clean it up, I don't know, but they don't want to have it get back in that state. I think they said something like 750 apps have been recertified.
Wow. But there's well over 750 apps up there at the moment, isn't there?
There is. Yeah, but that's a reasonable number. I mean, I think that maybe part of the foot dragging here is if they turned everything off, they'd only have 750 apps, and that's not as impressive looking.
But that is awesome. If there was 750 clean, hello. PowerApps has now appeared as one of the refined product searches.
Yes.
It's currently listed for Dynamics 2,161 apps, and there's 137 PowerApps.
Yep.
So
of all of those, 750 have actually been certified. So subtract the difference. That's how many that either still got to get certified or got to get dumped.
Wow.
Yeah. But that sounds like a lower number than what it was before. So they must be starting the culling process already. I thought it was like over 3,000 before.
As I say, 2161 is the current on AppSource there. I'll just chuck this into the chat session there. So anyone wants to take a look for themselves and make their own observations of that. Just on that, let me just see that again, AppSource. It's interesting on that first page, the top consulting services results is Iron Edge, Confluent, Collective, and ForceWorks.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
FadeWorks is the other one.
Consulting services is an interesting space they have to figure out what to do with, but it doesn't really have anything to do with the ISV apps in AppSource.
Yeah.
That's a completely independent thing, and I don't know how successful it has been for people putting services up there. I think the biggest challenge there is just discovery. How does the customer even find it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because like I'm looking at the Sales Spark listing up there, and I can see that we show up as PowerApps and Dynamics 365 Sales because we chose that to show up under. And I'm not interested in showing up under everything else because, like, you know, you can easily click all those things, but what's the point? Like, you wanna get targeted people engaging. I don't want people, you know, throwing up my test drive, contacting me when they are not my target audience, because all it does is burn my sales cycles.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's just marketing and sales, right? Check every box, because who knows, maybe somebody looking at project management software will see my sales engagement solution, you know, but in reality, it doesn't happen.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So what else has been announced this week? What else has come out in your sessions that's kind of pricked your curiosity?
So Matt Barber grabbed me about helping to try and telegraph some messaging that he wants to get out. The Azure Active Directory team has made some changes on some authentication stuff.
Okay.
And essentially they added a checkbox to the Azure Active Directory administration area where you can, with one check, disable legacy authentication methods, which is fine for Azure, great for security, but is a big problem for a lot of Dynamics developers out there that have used these legacy authentication methods, you know, in their API calls. He was telling me something like there's, I don't know, like 1 million a day still.
Wow.
So, and of those 1 million a day, apparently if any customer checks that box and the Azure team is telling those customers, hey, you should check this box to make it more secure, then all of a sudden it breaks. Wow. So it's already a breaking change. There's already customers who've checked that box that are having problems, and developers having to go back in and change the authentication stuff. I'm not technical enough to be able to explain to people what to do, how to fix that. Just that you know.
Well, I assume don't use legacy authentication methods.
Well, yeah, but it's not
that's
just
a rewrite of your code, right?
But this isn't just legacy. These are authentication methods that we're all using today. They just became legacy because of this checkbox the Azure Active Directory team introduced. So I'm not talking about the deprecated stuff that they were talking about last year that you need to get off of this and onto that. This is the stuff they were telling us to get onto. Wow. So I'm going to see if I can maybe get a little more information and maybe try and write some sort of a blog post about it. Maybe I'll run it by Matt to make sure I'm saying the right stuff, but he seems a little nervous about it. And it's something we need to be paying attention to as partners and developers. So that was one. I think we touched a little bit last week on the license enforcement, the technical enforcement that's coming.
That's come out in the Wave release as well, hasn't it? And the release Wave 1 of 2020, mention of that.
Yeah, that's another one that I think bears reiteration to partners and customers that are particularly on limited licenses, like a team member, like sales professional, any of those license types that have restrictions around them. That technical enforcement is coming, and up to now, it's been a paper license, which means there's a bunch of people out there using team member to do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
And if you built your ISV solution around that, which I know an ISV who did, not the smartest, not the smartest move, but he built his solution, on team member, and sold it with a bunch of team member because it made more revenue for him.
Yeah. So here's the interesting thing. I'm on the page here for license enforcement. You can get early access to it in February if you want it.
Well, you know what? You do want it, because how do you know what won't work?
Yeah. So from April 2020, it's enforced automatically on all end users.
Yep. Okay, good. Then that's public, because when I was talking to him last week, I said that date wasn't public yet.
Yeah, well, it's on. I'm looking in docs here. April 20th.
Yep.
End user automatically enforced. But if you want to opt in February, knock yourself out.
I could see people doing some opting in on some of those to make sure that to know what they're facing with, to see what that means. I think a lot of customers in particular don't even know what the boundaries are, because there hasn't been any gates. How would you know? No, they're not reading the manual or reading the document of what they're allowed to do. They're just using it.
Yeah, so this is what it says here. For team member license purchased during or after October 2018, license-based access will restrict users to a set of designated app modules. The users will no longer be able to access Customer Service Hub, Sales Hub, or Customer App modules. The designated app modules are as follows: Customer Service Team Member, Sales Team Member, Project Resource Hub.
Which they have not, I don't think they've launched those modules yet. So they're creating, they got Sales Hub, Service Hub, this, that, they're going to be creating team member specific apps. And I guess that's part of the way they're doing this, is just take stuff out of the app, but then hard code it where if you got a team member license, those are the only apps you see.
So here, actually, here's another sentence that's interesting. During the early access phase, users with team member licenses will be able to use the designated app modules mentioned above alongside all existing apps. Once license enforcement is turned on, and in brackets says starting the 1st of April 2020, there's your April Fool's joke.
Yep.
Entitled apps such as Customer Service Hubs, Sales Hub, and Customer Apps will not be accessible. Customers are advised to test their team member scenarios and migrate customizations to the designated app modules as needed.
That would be the reason for the early access and opting in.
Yeah.
Is to just go. I mean, I think that
test things out.
I've always had the gut feeling that there's, well, and we've been told there's massive abuse of that license and has been. So you got to think, come April 1st, I was telling Matt, I said, I'm just going to grab some popcorn and watch this, because it's going to be noisy. It's going to be, it's going to be noisy.
Frank's made a couple of comments here. In your code, don't use organization service proxy specifically. And then he's also said they're enforcing MFA and on all Azure Apps IDs. Now, that's an interesting thing, because I've got a little problem with MFA at the moment. Can you designate that one individual is not under MFA? Like, I've gone into Office 365 and it says in there, turn off or on MFA for each individual. The problem is in Office 365, all my individuals are off. And so, but I've got MFA on because I set MFA on via Azure originally. And so I'm enforcing it everywhere. But in Azure, I can't see the ability to opt out a user, from MFA.
So there's a couple of different things you could do. I think there is a way to adjust it from user to user, because we've had some service accounts with customers that are on MFA that they've taken off so that, the thing will operate. There's also a thing called an app password at a user level.
Yep.
And one of I'm not sure which of these authentication methods, but Matt was saying if you're authenticating with a username and password to the API, that's the problem. That's going to be the problematic one. So I don't know if that's this organization service or whatever it is. People create a service account and then they'll use that for connecting their connection strings and stuff like that. That's all going to be a problem.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Because that's the way AppSource right now connects to your tenant for
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I set it up. Frank, I totally agree with you. Everything should be MFA. Just sometimes those with more authority disagree because of the problem it causes. They don't realize just how important it is. WS Trust is the problem. Frank is saying. Well.
Yep. Exactly. Well, and it has been. WS Trust apparently has been Swiss cheese for a long time.
Yeah.
So I guess it's gonna be rocky. It's gonna be rocky.
Patty says there's some interesting items in the release notes regarding team license and cases. So I'm not sure of the detail there.
About what they're maybe
you said I've covered it. So that was on the team restriction. Now,
so one of the interesting things, which circled back to something you were asking about a minute ago, is this licensing enforcement construct that they're putting together. And I don't remember from the whiteboard, but it's kind of interesting how they're putting it together. The plan is, and not right away, but the plan is that will be the same licensing construct that we as ISVs will be able to plug into.
Okay. So this team member license is a step one An enforcement of ISV app licensing.
It's an enforcement methodology being created to solve the team member problem, as well as like Sales Pro, which has some limits and stuff like that.
Yep.
But the solution for their problem will be the solution for our problem eventually, which is being able to license and lock down our ISV solutions. I haven't heard anything on the commerce side, but frankly, I haven't asked. I think you and I both basically took a month off. You know, I didn't do shit for a month.
Yeah, but even coming back on deck, I expected to see something, right? As in, but there doesn't. As in, the ISV story, motion, comms with market seems dead quiet.
Yeah, I know there's a bunch of stuff going on with the studio.
Yep.
And a bunch of stuff going on the Visual Studio connection to that studio, and there seems like there's a lot of plumbing that's happening, which isn't necessarily particularly visible, particularly for non-developers like you and I. But there does seem to be a lot of plumbing going on, but not a bunch of visible stuff.
Yeah. Which is all right. I'm all good if they're stabilizing things, you know, making them run more efficiently, things like that. I think that's important. But generally, that's got nothing to do with the marketing team, right?
You know, it's interesting. It feels like they come up with a new idea for a new feature, and of course, I'm sure a bunch of people on the team are all excited about going and building this new thing, and they get it 90% done, and then it gets into that drudgery of building something, you know, and then they don't want to work on it anymore. They go off the next shiny object. I mean, Philips needs to put together a team of people who do nothing but go back and, you know, finish that last few pieces of everything before they start something else.
Yeah.
I get you're not going to have your star player, your star people doing that part of it, but somebody has to come finish these things.
Yeah, exactly. You were mentioning something about virtual agents. They've covered that this week a bit more.
Virtual agents are
virtual agents,
they're it was interesting to look at the demo again and today, and one of the things that I found was kind of interesting was this idea of you could kind of seed your virtual agent from a website, right?
Yeah.
You could create a bot, say, here, go get some topics from my website, point it at a FAQ page, automatically build out a whole chat bot based on information that you've got out there, which is handy. I had suggested to the team, which they said they're going to try and look into, I said, what I'd like to be able to do is I'd like to be able to record my customer service agent phone calls for a week. I want to take all those recordings of a week worth of customer service calls, and I want to upload them into Azure, have you guys run the cognitive service, machine learning, build my bot from that real life scenario.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool. Actual questions asked, actual answers given. There's also, they haven't introduced yet, but they're going to some kind of security role thing with these bots, because right now, you could connect a bot to your backend system, like say Dynamics.
Yeah.
You could use any of the data in Common Data Service as a variable in these bots, including, like, for example, what your markup is. That some moron building a bot might not understand, and suddenly you're sitting here sending all your customers what your markup is, or all sorts of stuff. So it's the citizen developer risk. We want to enable these people to be able to build things to solve their problems, but we don't want to enable them to create problems.
Yeah. I was looking at what's new, and I played around with virtual agents, Power Virtual Agents last year when it came out, interviewed the PMs and stuff on it. And it was good, but I tell you, listen to what's coming out this year, which I really like. Under configuration, I think these are really important. One, Power Virtual Agent bots will be able to be launched from a PowerApps canvas app, right? Create and manage Power Virtual Agents directly within PowerApps. At the moment, it's a separate website if you've done anything on that.
So hold on a second before your first point about being able to create one in a Canvas app. The next step of that is to be able to embed that Canvas app in your model-driven app.
Totally.
So that you can actually have virtual agents for your own people,
Yeah.
not just customer.
I think the internal use case is massive for big companies, right?
Oh yeah, think about replacing the old dialogues.
Yeah.
There's a much better replacement. Plus, it can automatically create data. I mean, you're looking at a sales form, and you don't know what the hell you're doing because you're brand new, and you click on this, start this bot right on the form, telling you what to do, and as you're answering questions, it's entering data for you in the background.
Exactly.
You know, it's you just sit there and talk to it.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, continue.
Single sign-on.
Yep.
Which is part of that security model, but around authoring, import and export bots or their content. Now, one of the things that I identified quickly, you can't rename a bot or anything, where I'm wondering if this import export function would potentially give you that option. So these are all
it's supposed to introduce that concept of portability, right? And it's actually working towards this ISV ready thing that we talked about. It's part of getting that towards ISV ready.
Yeah.
Is you can package up a bot and include it in your ISV solution.
Yeah. So these are all GAing in April. Pass context to a bot from the calling site. Now, I didn't realize that wasn't already there, because 20 years ago, when I was teaching web design and shit like that, as in, was it 20 years? Yeah, around 20 years ago, it must be now. There was a tool out there. It was like $300,000 to install on your website. So it was for big e-commerce sites type thing back in those days. Where if you, for example, had a chair on your website and you wanted to ask like FAQ, but directly about that, it would hand the product ID into the chat tool and therefore just surface everything around that explicit product ID. So very, very targeted. So it looks like they're bringing that into this bot framework. But so those are kind of the key highlights that I see look interesting. But the biggest thing that I find interesting, around July, September, they're landing this, which is full voice enablement.
No, to be able to just talk to the bot.
So first up, AI assisted authoring, topic suggestions from bot sessions, and then connect bots to voice and phone call interactions. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. The other thing they're talking about that is a high priority is multi-language, because right now they're just English.
It's actually on this lease. It just wasn't a high priority for me to mention.
Yeah. Well, apparently it's been a high priority for a lot of other folks. But, if you're a global company.
May 2020, support for additional languages, and then that's going to be the preview, and then July 2020, the release of multilingual support.
Very cool.
Yeah. Oh, and adding images and videos to topics. That's also GAing in May 2020.
Yep.
At the moment, I'm pretty sure it's 100% text-based, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, you can throw up buttons, right?
Yeah.
Yes, no buttons and stuff, so people don't have to type.
Yeah, but that's not an image, right? That's not a diagram with, put the inverter over the capacitor and twist this nut type thing,
Yep.
That type of thing. Yeah. So and so what, have they been demoing a bit there this week with the event you're at?
Yeah, I think they're showing, again, F&O people that don't even know what the virtual agents were. A lot of it was introductory, but it's new. It's the newest demos that they're, maybe testing with this audience. I don't know.
Yeah. Now, I just noticed, we haven't really talked about MBAS coming up in Texas. And of course, Microsoft changed the venue location, right? It was going to be in California. That was the announcement at last Microsoft Business Application Summit event. What do you know about why this move came about? Was it pure, the official word is that it's capacity, so many people are wanting to come, bigger venue. That's what I heard. Have you heard anything else?
No, but if I had to guess, I'd say cost was a factor too, right? And you jump into a bigger venue, you start shopping around. I mean, that's why, Inspire is out of Vegas for the next 5 years, is because cost, they made them a deal.
Yeah. The city probably paid for them to come, right?
You would think there's somebody's doing something. There's some sort of a subsidy there. You go bringing that many people to town.
Yeah. But I noticed also that they seem to be being very strict on this one, where, at Ignite, sorry. Yeah, at Ignite, you know, there's a lot of community contribution, speaking engagements. Doesn't look like that's on the radar for this one. It looks like it's purely FTEs going to be presenting solidly for the whole time.
I think that's how MBAS has been for the first two of them, right? It was pretty much FTEs. The only participation of partners or MVPs would be if you were joining one of those FTEs in their session. I did that the first year with Julie Strauss.
Yep.
And you know, but I was on her session, you know, joining her session. So
So you're playing wingman. She was lead priming, right?
Exactly.
So,
I think it's probably the only opportunity still.
So just, you know, for my own interest, can you unpack for me who is the ISV team now inside Charles Lamanna's team? So in other words, the people responsible for engineering from an ISV perspective, as opposed to Goog's team, which is responsible really for the go-to-market, the business end of things.
So Julie Strauss's role has expanded significantly.
Yeah, hasn't she got a lot more direct reports and stuff now?
Even since the last time I've talked to her. So her umbrella is getting really, really big over that whole space. She was just kind of responsible for tools.
Yep.
But now, her umbrella is getting a lot bigger. What was the other thing that somebody was telling me about that recently got pulled in? I can't remember now. But yeah, I mean, I think Googs is still driving that also, but more than just the marketing. I mean, he's setting strategy anyway. He's setting strategy.
Yeah. But so is David Pennington still in that team? Is all the accelerators falling under that? I once again haven't heard much about the accelerators of late.
They talked about them today or yesterday here again. More work on accelerators. I think they're actually going back and redoing some of their earlier accelerators, which in a way makes me kind of nervous if I'd have built stuff on an accelerator. Yeah. I mean, if you're launching something as an accelerator, and supposedly there was this ridiculous vetting process internally with external partners that are in the space, ISVs and customers, to come up with an attribute that everybody would agree on. This is permanent. This is never going to change. Yes, we all agree. Gets voted on, goes into the accelerator as an attribute for that industry accelerator. So in theory, as an ISV building on top of that, you should be able to count on that, right? Mm-hmm. But now I'm hearing that they're going back to some of the early accelerators and kind of redoing them. Well, I got to assume they're not going to redo those attributes. They kind of stuck them in there, and they're kind of stuck with it. So I don't know what they mean by redoing. You know, maybe some of the logic or stuff like that. I don't know, but you know, as they've built more accelerators, they've kind of figured out what an accelerator should really be. So now you look back at the first ones they built and like, yeah, we didn't really do those right, you know. Mm-hmm. So that's what's going on there. But Pennington was actually supposed to be here yesterday. Someone else came to speak for him because he couldn't get here.
Okay.
On the accelerators. So he's still running it. I don't know if Smith's still involved. I didn't see his name.
Haven't seen Smith around, and I haven't seen the lineup for Barcelona from Microsoft's point of view. Who's attending? Have you looked at the sales stuff that's on the roadmap, specifically around forecasting?
I have not. I was looking at customer insights, though.
Pardon?
I was looking at customer insights again, though.
Yeah, and?
You know, it's continuing. I think they made a mistake with it. They called it Dynamics 365 Customer Insights.
Yeah.
However, Dynamics 365 is not a requirement.
Exactly.
It's a standalone application. Can be used with Dynamics. It can be used with anything. So I don't understand why they stuck the Dynamics 365 name on the front of that, because even in this heavily F&O, they're all asking the same question: is, so I have to have Dynamics? You know.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing, though.
And you don't. They should have called it Power Insights. So just made it.
No. Here's the thing, right? What happens is that we, as people in the ecosystem, default to what is the license? What is that? Customers don't do that, right? Now, I reckon what they're doing here is that they're making a very clear line as into what is a finished app. In other words, Click, go, it's ready. This is not a building tool. This is a finished app, right? And that word finished app is something Hayden kept using on the call that I had with him in reference to the Dynamics suite. So
the
I
Dynamics
think
365 specifically, that name is on a finished app.
that's on a finished app. So I think because Product Insights is considered a finished app,
Customer Insights.
yeah, it's Customer Insights, any of those Product Insights, they are good to go, right? You consume services, you plug your data in, your way you go, that they're lit up. I'm thinking that perhaps we're going to see this at that's a in product rather than a building application is going to have that Dynamics 365 label on it. Because
So
you think from a customer perspective, all of a sudden now they're using Product Insights. They got that. Then someone comes along and goes, what about Dynamics 365 sales? And they're like, oh, I've got Product Insights. Yeah, get sales. You know, I see it leading out that story logically.
Yeah, I don't really look at Customer Insights as a finished app. I mean, it's a platform and a tool set to build stuff, right?
But all you're doing is adding data.
Well, yeah, you're adding data, then you have to do that map, merge, unify. There's a lot of stuff to do. I mean, it's a tool set. It's a tool set to get to.
You're not going to write code on it, right? As such.
No, you're not. You're not. But then you don't write code on PowerApps either as such.
Yeah.
Right? It's all no code, low code.
Yeah. No, it's not all that, right? You know, I think there's been an over pivot on the whole citizen developer. And I think this year we're going to see the pendulum come back to, the center of the aisle, so to speak. It's the fact is we want to enable all developers, whether they are pro devs, citizen dev, IT pros, anybody in that ecosystem, right? The product has a fit for them.
To be fair, I'm at a what's billed as a technical conference, but even in spite of that, I've been hearing the pro dev come up more often. I think they know they over pivoted on citizen, and maybe oversold a little bit on citizen of what citizen's capable of accomplishing with a platform, which is certainly they can accomplish a lot compared to not that long ago. They couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
But they can't accomplish everything, and they don't even know when they've hit a wall.
I think we've gone from a world where the people that were going to use the software were never involved in the software development lifecycle for many, many years.
Right.
And so software kept getting produced inside companies that weren't a good fit because IT folks with their IT hat on says, you want a checkbox, you got a checkbox. And they didn't have that kind of view. Yeah, but what? You'd never put a checkbox there in the way we use it each day, right? And so I think that the citizen developer more and more is, they are getting their hands on. They're seeing that they can take this Lego and build something with it. But I think that the concept that they're really getting more conversation at the table. They're getting more engagement than they ever did. They're getting their day-to-day war stories built into the app so that their life can be made simple, even if it might not be the citizen developer that's actually building out the full-on production app. Yes, there'll be edge cases of that, but I think there'll be a lot of scenarios where, for it to ultimately be in production in a larger company, IT pros and pro devs are going to have to probably be involved in the full life cycle of that app.
So it's interesting because a lot of the conversation in many of these sessions being brought up, not deep detail, but brought up is this whole center of excellence stuff and the center of excellence toolkits and stuff like that, which feels to me like the raft they filled with supplies and pushed out to the passengers that all are swimming outside of the boat right now, instead of the other way around. So I think they're seeing a lot of maybe Wild West that they've created with their citizen developer, and so now we're coming back behind that with this center of excellence to try and wrap that was the new persona we were talking about, IT admin versus citizen developer, pro developer. Now I'm seeing this new IT admin persona, a third persona, who basically runs the center of excellence.
I think that we're going to see a massive, massive pivot this year or extension in the area of governance and admin like never before, right? So that this story around, access databases and how it was really the Wild West and anyone could do anything, there's that pivot around to go, no, hang on a second. We need to make sure that IT pros, that are running these systems feel 100% confident that there's no data leakage going on, that there's no air gaps being jumped or anything like that. And it is a secure environment. Beyond that person leaving the company, right? That they don't just get left with legacy thing with nobody understanding how it works when, punter B moves on to another company.
I was at one of the events we were at not that long ago. I can't remember, one of the bigger events, and they did a smaller invite only thing where they had some of the big global enterprise companies that have gone deep in PowerApps, and I think it was mostly enterprise people that were invited. It was kind of like, here's 3 case studies, like the Chevron guy and the Schlumberger and those folks up there. Schlumberger, somebody else up there that were talking about, obviously up here to promote how wonderful, the whole PowerApps and the citizen developer and all this stuff is. But the guy had pulled up some list on some slide that showed like, I don't know, 150 different environments or something spun up, and mentioned that, there's only about 20 of these that are active. We still need to go in and clean out the rest. And I'm thinking, you're like the cutting edge demonstration for all these other people, and you're sitting here telling us that there's a bunch of garbage up there that you still have to go clean out. So this is here, we're going to light the fire for you, and then we'll sell you the fire extinguisher.
Yeah, I know. I think there'll be a lot of cleanup. I agree. NZ365 guy, just chuck it in front of everything because it becomes highly searchable. Just one of the comments. I dare you, go to a search engine, do a search for Mark Smith. You will not find me at all. Nothing. Zero. Nada. Go and
plenty of Mark Smiths.
NZ365 guy, and I think I occupy about the first 5 or 6, 10 pages there. Different with yours, right? Steve Mordue still, it pops under that, doesn't it? Mordue's an interesting last name.
I probably cover most of the first 3 pages on that one. There's some UK hockey or soccer player or something that every now and then pops up. A couple of other folks, but
that's the name Mordue, eh?
Yeah, but I pretty much own the first 3 pages.
Yeah. No, it's definitely worked for me. I'm definitely not producing content at the velocity I was last year because I now have a job working Sales Spark, so it's got me much more focused. But we'll continue the podcast this year, definitely. And
this has been pretty easy. I mean, every now and then schedule, but this has been pretty easy and painless.
Yeah. So just about that, next week I'm away out of town it's a public holiday, and so I'm on a remote island out in the Hauraki Gulf here in New Zealand. So are you going to be good to run the show by yourself, or are we going to take a pause for next week? What are you thinking?
Why don't we circle up? When are you leaving?
So I'll be gone all next Thursday. So we need to make the call by Wednesday next week.
Right. We'll experiment, make sure I can figure out how to do it.
Yeah, I've scheduled online that the event's happening, but you could decide if you've got a wingman on board. It'll give me something entertaining to look at in the following. Yeah,
that's right. You had somebody stand in for, was it John? Was it John that stood in for me when I was?
No, it was Scott.
Oh, Scott. Yeah. Yep. I come up with somebody. Maybe I'll get Charles Lamana or somebody to.
The big guns.
Take your place. Well, I can't get James Phillips anymore. You ruined that for everybody.
So Hayden Stafford said to me, listen, can you get Alyssa on the podcast? I said, I've not tried to really get, in touch with her. He goes, well, I'll make it happen. Like I'll reach out, make it happen, that type of thing. And so, I think we could get James back on. Why do you think James wouldn't come on again?
He don't like the camera.
It wasn't. You mean on this? But why on a podcast? He's never done another podcast right outside Microsoft.
You got a little too deep and personal.
I did my research well, eh? I found a whole bunch of stuff that he didn't realize was online. Mate,
Yeah.
we've been in IT long enough to know how to do some thorough online researching and follow the link.
So upcoming events, Barcelona is Barcelona next? I think it is. It's next month.
Barcelona. What? That's only 5 weeks away now. 5 weeks.
Yeah. So we'll be there.
Crazy soon, right? Crazy soon.
From there, we fly straight back out here.
Great MVP Summit, right, in Seattle and Redmond there. You're in Advanta campus, I take it, at the moment?
Yep.
Yeah, that's well, we'll spend the tail end of the week there. We're usually in Satya's own building, aren't we, for our sessions, as in where his office is where the business application MVP presentations are all done. Yep,
never seen him walking in or out of it, but
the highest, I've seen 2 people walk in and out of it. I've seen Scott Gu, and I have seen Smith, the head of legal, Brad Smith.
Brad Smith, yep.
Those are the 2. And that was before Brad wrote his book. Have you had a chance to read his book yet?
I downloaded it, Audible, listened to the first bit of it, and then just got distracted and keep forgetting to get back.
Priorities. Ask me, how many books have I read this year so far? What are we? 4th weekend. How many?
4th weekend, I'm going to say 8.
All right, I've actually read 8. Books. I'm on my 9th book at the moment, and I'm seeing if I can finish that before the end of the month. So
I don't know where you find the time, although I'm not doing anything on a plane, I guess. I should listen to it.
No such thing as finding time. It all comes down to a simple word: priorities.
Are you physically reading a book or are you listening?
No, as in I read it. As in I get it on Kindle.
Yeah, I can't do that. I can't. I can listen. I'll listen to one maybe while I'm doing something else, but I just can't.
I actually do both. I always read and I always listen to it at the same time.
Oh, really? You have the audio play as you're reading along?
Yeah. So I always buy the Audible version and I always buy the Kindle version. Therefore, they stay in sync with each other.
Yep.
So what happens is that because the audio is now, I'm reading at 2.5 times the normal audio speed, and that's taken me 2 years to train to that point. I now say super focused on my page reading, so I am keeping up with what's going on in my ear, which has forced me to actually read physically much faster. It's taken 2 years to train it. So, but what it does is it makes sure, because you're so hyper focused, right, your attention rate goes up massively.
Well, it's coming in both senses too.
Huh? Yeah, it's coming in
the eyes, audibly and visually, instead of one or the other.
Right? If I used to just listen, I would all of a sudden wake up and
exactly.
Rewind.
And
then what I found is when I was just reading, if I read with no audio, what happens is all of a sudden something has been said here, and then my mind is processing something, but my eyes are carrying on, and then I'm at the bottom. I didn't remember what I read.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. Let's go back and reread it.
Merging the 2 together to become kind of hyper focused, ears and eyes at the same time. As soon as they can add smell to those books, I mean, that's going to add another sense in there. Maybe a bit of tactile stuff. Who knows where technology? Oh, that's what is it? VR, AR, mixed reality, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. You could just climb into the book. You just climb into the book physically through the VR.
Wouldn't that be sick? It sounds like a movie right there.
I don't know why they couldn't do it. It seems like,
It'll happen in time, man. It'll happen. Give it 10 years. Where are we going to be at the end of this next decade, man? I reckon. I think we're not even going to, we can't comprehend how much is going to advance in 10 years.
Yeah, I'll be gone by then, so I ain't got to worry about it.
What do you mean you'll be gone? It's only 10 years. Fuck.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to off myself here before that. I'm not going to wait out. I'm not going to wait out the misery of old age.
I cannot believe you're saying that, man. I want to cap the 100, man. I want to go through the 100 mark. That's my goal.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound like a good time.
No, it does, man. You think within 10 years, any body part will be able to be regenerated?
Really? Any body part?
Any body part.
Any size you might want, or
I
I mean, I've always
see where
wanted.
you're going with this.
No, I want bigger. I want bigger ears.
I reckon heart, lung, eyes, anything like that will be able to be reproduced using your own DNA, right? So they'll be able to take some stem cells out of you, chuck it in a 3D printer. You're never going to get rejection. You know, the seams of those ears being sewn on are going to be just perfect, so no one will tell that they're regenerated ears.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I reckon.
So then we'll go after regenerated scalps.
Yeah. Let me tell you about the Microsoft products of my day. Yeah, I mean, another comment just come through. That's right. I'll be talking about enterprise AR. Who knows where we'll be? I mean, I might have chosen to deprioritize that part of my memory at that point.
Yep, exactly.
I might have flushed that cache and be reloaded to more important things or something else. Maybe who knows? Who knows what we'll be able to do? Like I seriously believe by 2050, we will have the choice of whether we die or not. Now, I'm not saying,
Really?
Yeah, I'm not saying a bus couldn't hit you and you get taken out by an accident, but I think we would have got to the point that disease won't kill us. And really, ultimately, most people die of some form of disease. Even old age, to a degree, it brings on a disease, and it's a disease.
Yeah,
that kills.
a weakness. So, yeah.
If we've got to that level that can be eliminated, and what it really means is that you could really regenerate any part of your body at a certain age point and go forward from that. So therefore, this concept of becoming immortal becomes a potential reality. And who knows, man?
Where does everybody fit? Where does everybody fit? The planet's not big enough. We need people to die off to make room.
No. So here's the thing, right? You know how you got the Grim Reaper?
Okay.
People in society are going to have to be designated as Grim Reapers.
Like the movie Purge.
I haven't seen the movie Purge.
Yeah, it's once a year. It's a lawless, and they use it to.
Yeah, I've not seen that. I've heard about it, but yeah.
Bunch of people out there killing a bunch of people just to get rid of a bunch of people because there's too many people. There you go. You have been chosen as a less desirable, so we're just going to get rid of you.
Yeah. No, I think it'll be more statistically based. So, let's say 3% of all teenagers get killed because of getting drunk and jumping off bridges or something. They'll then go 3% of the population through their teens need to be eliminated because statistically that would have happened before we made it impossible to die.
What book did you read all this in? Sounds like you're in the middle of that book.
Yeah, you're right. That is from a book, that idea.
We have hit the top of the hour.
Paddy won't die by being hit by a bus. I don't know if I should say this, Paddy. I don't want to jinx you. I'm not even going to say it in case it jinxed you. Paddy's a skydiver. I'll say nothing more.
Let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
We've hit the top of the hour. I got to go back. Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Thumbs up. You got to get back in your session.
Got to get back in your session. So I got stuff to talk about next week.
Awesome.
Okay.
Stay tuned. I've already scheduled the other episode for next week. If it disappears, guys, it means that we're not online for it. But if Steve can handle the show by himself, it will be online. One of the suggestions here was that perhaps you got a cardboard cutout and put me alongside. And I pretty much think that if you just put 2 cameras on you, you could make it me and you.
Exactly.
Enough similarity. Yeah, exactly. Talk to yourself.
All right, man. Sounds good. We'll see you. I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
we'll do that. 2 weeks.
You bet. You'll be back in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll be possibly there next week if I can get somebody famous to join me.
Yeah. Valid. Awesome. Okay. Cheers, guys.